You can't cancel someone if they don't care. It's not that I don't care about what we're doing. I don't care what people think, because you always have the haters. He said, where was the Atlantic when 500,000 kids were smuggled in this country? Where was the Atlantic when there's a 600% increase in sex trafficking because of the Biden administration? Where was the Atlantic? We had a record number of people on terrorist watch lists crossing the country, our border.
Tom Homan, thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, it's good to see you again. Since we last spoke, you were just about to go and begin your position as border czar. Since that time, since January 20th, over 100,000 deportations. Are you satisfied with those numbers?
No.
No.
Look, the numbers are good. Numbers outstanding, but we got to do more. We got to do more, because what's happened the last 4 years, we got millions of people in the United States that are not supposed to be here. We got hundreds of thousands of criminal aliens walking the streets of this country. So even though the numbers are good, I'm happy about them, I'm not satisfied yet. We got to get more. So, we got Congress needs to step up and fund this operation, give us the money we need to be more successful than we already are.
I know that you all pushed pause on using military aircraft for some of those deportations just because of the price point. What is the best method that you all have found right now to efficiently deport and carry out those deportation flights?
Well, we're still going to use military planes, but we're trying to find all the efficiencies we can, right? Because every dollar counts at this point. So we contract a lot of the work to the private sector, and that's a competitive process, so always get the best price point. We're also trying to detain people for as little as possible. So we created more efficiency in the program. Rather than having somebody sit in the detention bed for weeks or months, we're trying to get ahead of the travel documents issuance, the landing rights approvals, so people are in detention less. And since we have a limited number of detention beds, the quicker we roll those beds over, the more people we detain. So if you have 50,000 beds, you can roll them over, every 30 days. So that's 50,000 beds times 12. So that's how many people get home. So that's our goal, is to be more efficient to save the money. And even when we get a budget from Congress, we'll do the same thing. Again, with more money, we can do more things, but we got to be smart about how we spend the money.
So in some ways, maybe it's a speed. How
it's a speed, but there's also consequences. There's also a message we need to send. Putting gang members designated as terrorist organizations on a military plane sends a strong message. Sending these gangs to the El Salvadoran prison sends a strong message, and it's working. So we're going to continue sending that strong message.
How many countries have we carried out deportation flights to now? Do you know how many?
I don't have it off the top of my head. I know we got people from 160 different countries were apprehended under the Biden administration. So a lot of these countries, we'll do 3 or 4 countries in one airplane. Like a lot of Central American countries, that airplane, have Hondurans, Guatemalans, El Salvadorians. So there's 161 different countries were apprehended last year under Biden, nationals from 161 countries. So I don't think we removed all of them. Of course, we removed all that came across, but to all those countries yet, I don't think we have.
Okay. Among those 100,000 that have been already deported, do we know roughly how many had either already criminal convictions or pending criminal charges?
The majority of them. Except the ones that Border Patrol may have caught and we had to return to another country. But the majority of ICE arrests in the interior are criminals, and that's keeping the promise President Trump gave. We want to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. However, the number of collaterals have gone up, and the reason that collaterals are going up because we're in sanctuary cities where we're forced to go into the community to find the bad guy, and we find them many times with others. If they're in the country illegally, they're coming too. So there's a high number of collaterals. But that's really because of sanctuary city policies, not because of our targeting.
Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit about the sanctuary city situation because there's been a number of mayors, governors, they've been very open. They're not going to cooperate with you. And yet you're going into cities like Boston, sanctuary cities, where recently 370 arrests were made. How are you navigating working in those cities when you don't have local support?
We just do our job. If they don't help, they can stand by and watch. But I'm focusing on sanctuary cities because sanctuary cities are the most dangerous places in the country. They can claim they're the safest city all they want, But every crime committed by illegal aliens is a preventable crime. So if they're going to keep releasing public safety threats, then we're going to go and we're going to concentrate in those cities. We'll double the man force in those cities. So if they want to play the game on. I'm going to concentrate in sanctuary cities. I'll be going back to Boston, not once, not twice, but many times. I'll be going back to Chicago. I'll be going back to, all these sanctuary cities. I'll be going to Rochester, New York pretty soon because their sanctuary policies, officers that responded to emergency call for assistance from ICE responded, did the right thing, but then he got disciplined for doing it. So I'll be going to Rochester, send a strong message to that, a mayor, that this administration will do the job with without you, and we'll put him on the list with the rest of the sanctuary cities that Pam Bondi can look at and take legal action against.
So you have a list.
I have a list.
In regards...
Everybody's got a list. I got a list.
Sure. Is it a long list?
Longer than it should be.
Sure.
But I guarantee everyone on that list will deal with it.
Yeah. You're going to those cities.
Yes.
In regards to numbers, in about 2 months, 100,000 deportations, you say you want to do even more. Is there a number you have in mind that you're aiming at, that monthly we want to be doing X amount of deportations?
It's hard to give a number because I don't know what my resources are right now, right? I'd like to say 100,000, I'm happy with it because of the limited number of resources, because sanctuary cities, but I'm not satisfied with it because we need more money from Congress to do more. So I want to, look, every 24/7, the men and women of ICE need to be out there targeting criminal aliens, and we need to arrest them more, detaining more. We need to deport more. So we need more detention beds. We need more airplane flights. We need more officers. We need more overtime. We need, the more money we have, the more successful we'll be. At the same time, we got to make sure Congress, even though they budget this operation, we got to make sure they don't, take steps that are going to hurt law enforcement. I was just advised yesterday and this morning about, pending legislation, how law enforcement officers may lose their, some of their pay, their compensation and their health insurance, costs. And, these men and women are putting their lives on the line for this country every day. And the president has declared a national emergency. Last thing we need to be doing is taking pay or benefits away from the officers who put their lives on the line for this country every day. So, the morale is all-time high right now because you're getting to do the job that they took an oath to do. The last thing we need to do is start attacking their pay or their benefits. So I'll be going up the hill, and we want their funding, but the trade-off cannot be attacking the men and women who put their lives on the line for this country every day.
Yeah, critical for them to be protected. You, of course, have been attacked a lot in the press, gotten a lot of criticism. The Atlantic wrote an article, you've received criticism for a number of outlets, including from the Atlantic, that accused ICE of deporting someone who had protected status. How do you address these criticisms, especially after the Supreme Court made the ruling on the Alien Enemies Act, and then swiftly you had the ACLU come in and file?
Well, look, we knew from day one. I knew before I started this job. It's just like the Trump 45 that they're going to vilify the men and women of ICE and the Border Patrol and anybody in the Trump administration. Look, they tried to vilify me before, but I don't care. So the difference between me and everybody else, I don't care what people think about me. I honestly don't. I lost my family and my Lord and Savior who think I'm doing the right thing, which I think I am because we're keeping America safe. I don't care what the media thinks about me. Matter of fact, when I read a hit piece, it just throws more gas in my fire. I'm tired. I'm an old guy. I come back twice. This is twice I've come back from retirement. I get tired. But what fires me up when I read a hit piece, that just throws gas in my fire because that means I'm over the target. That means what I'm doing and saying is people are paying attention to. So they're going to attack me all they want. You can't cancel somebody. Don't give a. You can't cancel someone just someone that don't care. I almost went there, didn't I?
All right, we filled it in. We filled it in our minds for it.
You can't cancel someone if they don't care. And it's not that I don't care about what we're doing. I don't care what people think because you always have the haters. Look, where was the Atlantic when 500,000 kids were smuggled in this country? Separated from their families, put in the hands of criminal cartels to be smuggled in this country. Where were they on that? If I left my dog in the backseat of the car and went in a grocery store shopping here in Florida, I'd be arrested. But they can put their children in the hands of a criminal cartel have them smuggled across the international boundary. Who the hell knows what happened to them? Where are they when they can't find 300,000 of the kids released to sponsors? Where was the Atlantic when there's a 600% increase in sex trafficking because of the Biden administration? Where was the Atlantic? We had a record number of people on terrorist watch lists crossing the country, our border. Where was the Atlantic when 250,000 Americans died from fentanyl came across the border? They can't have it both ways. You can't call Tom Homan the grandfather of family separation because, I think number is 3,500. They claim it's 5,000. 5,000 family separations. I can point to 500,000 family separation. Where's the story on that? So, it's just basic media bias, and it really doesn't bother me. I just said, they reported up to 1,000 people at my, protesting my lake house that I wasn't even there this past weekend. It doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. I'm glad I got their attention.
Yeah, you certainly have their attention. There's no doubt about that. Not all Democrats, though, not all on the left are opposing you. Mayor Eric Adams in New York, I know you've met with a couple of times. He wants to really crack down on crime in his city, and he's taking action. How have you found working with him?
Good. He just signed an executive order. Well, he didn't. His deputy mayor did under his instruction. Signed an executive order that's going to let ICE stations back in Rikers Island. That's a game changer for us. I mean, I want more from him. I also want him to help me find, illegal alien public safety threats in the city. We talked. He doesn't want to be an immigration officer. I don't want to be an immigration officer. But I want his cops to work with our cops to help protect this community. He took the first step, which is a big step. There's more to do. But talking about the politics of the whole thing, the minute he started talking to me, all of a sudden the governor of New York flies down and tries to get him fired because he wants to be a law and order mayor and work with ICE. But the guy has a backbone. The guy signed the agreement this week, and we already took people out of Rikers Island. So it's great. Taking them out of Rikers Island before they hit the streets is a game changer for New York.
Mm-hmm. New York still has sanctuary policies on the books. Do you foresee that changing?
Well, they're under litigation. I mean, Pam Bondi's taking a strong stance with New York. I mean, the green light law is a ridiculous law where, ICE and Border Patrol can't run DMV data on a New York State license plate. Are you kidding me? So, in law enforcement, when you pull a car over, the first thing you do is run the license plates and try to find out all about that car. Who owns that car? Is there wants or warrants on that car? Is there wants and warrants on the person who owns that car? Is there a criminal history on the person who owns that car? This all starts with DMV data running a license plate. And they restrict us from doing that. They said they'll do it if we submit a warrant signed by a federal judge, which is ridiculous. What other agency at all do you require a warrant to run a license plate? No, just immigration agencies. And if you do get that warrant and run the license plate number, the law also requires you to contact the person that we're investigating to let them know we're investigating them, which is just ridiculous. So it's DOJ's taking legal action, and we will win.
When you all decide, like you're going to Rochester soon, you say, what are you all looking at? How are you determining, all right, we're going to look for this person, this person, this person? What are kind of those top areas that your agents are
We're prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats, so we know who we're looking for. There's a lot of immigration databases we search along with criminal databases. So we try to target the ones that we consider a public safety threat, and that's what we go after. It's a targeted enforcement operation. When men and women ICE hit the street, they know exactly who they're looking for and most likely where they will find him. Not always there. Sometimes they're hiding. Sometimes they're doing everything they can to avoid us. But the notion that I read in the paper that we're doing neighborhood sweeps is just ridiculous. We don't sweep neighborhoods. We don't sweep anything. Every person we go to look for, we know exactly who we're looking for. The only caveat to that is a large worksite enforcement operation. We may be arresting people. We don't know everybody we're looking for at that place, but we know there's a lot of illegal aliens working at that place. So we may not know everybody we're going to arrest and we walk in there. But even then we do a worksite operation, it's based on an investigation, knowing they're either fraudulent I-9s or no I-9s, so we know We may identify several people working illegally, but during the course of the operation, we'll arrest many more than that. So that's the only place where when we walk in that door, we have targets, but we know there's going to be more targets in there.
Given the deportation numbers, the arrest numbers, the securing of the southern border, how are the cartels responding?
Oh, they're pissed off. I mean, they were making record amount of money in the Biden administration. They're making more money right now than ever did. Not right now, but in the Biden administration, they're making more money than they've ever made. They were doing record amounts of profit in alien smuggling, record amount of profit in sex trafficking in women and children, a record amount of profit in drug smuggling. They never used to be in the alien smuggling business. They realized how much money's being made, and the consequences were pretty low because going to jail for alien smuggling versus drug smuggling was much lesser offense. So they were making record amounts of money, and that's why the cartels in Mexico were, there's a war going on in Mexico. People didn't know about cartels and fighting one another for control of the plazas because so much money is being made. The plazas are area control. But since we got that border locked down right now, less people are being smuggled, less people being trafficked, less dope's coming across, we're hurting them at their bottom line. And the television reports I've seen, they're actually producing and smuggling more of the fentanyl and other narcotics to European nations where there's less control. So we're going to see a mass benefit from doing what we're doing on the border. I think you're going to see less fentanyl overdose deaths. You're going to see less sex trafficking, of course. You're going to see less alien smuggling. You're going to see less deaths of aliens across the border. And Joe Biden, I think in 4 years, there's over 4,000 people have died across the border. So we're not only going to save American lives from drug overdoses, we're going to save alien lives from making that journey and across that border.
What do you expect to see from the cartels with their bottom line hurting? Some folks have said, they're probably going to get a little bit more desperate.
They're definitely, first of all, they've already changed a lot of their methods. I mean, they're going to maritime a lot now. They're trying to take to the water. However, this administration stepped up Coast Guard patrols, and we got the Navy ships involved. So we're going to try to put a blockade in the maritime too. When they adapt, we adapt. We adapt just as quick. So as they change their taxes, we'll be there to respond. I do think, I hope I'm wrong, but I do think there'll be escalated violence on the border because, again, we're hitting them on their cash flow. So, and as we do more and more deep dive investigations in the cartels and we start seizing money, there's already threats. They're going to use drones to harm our officers on the border and the military that we have on the border. If I can give them any advice, I wouldn't do that because President Trump will not hesitate to take extraordinary action against these cartels. So injuring our officers or a soldier working that border, I think President Trump will respond to that as being an act of war. And I think the cartels will be sorry they did anything like that. I think under President Trump's leadership, cartels are going to be exterminated. They're going to be wiped off the face of the earth because they're now terrorist organizations. We're going to treat them as such. So any attack on us, we met with attack back 100-fold.
Given the power, the strength, the infrastructure the cartels have, is that possible to totally dismantle? It is.
Look what President Trump did to the caliphate. Look what he did to ISIS. If he can do that halfway across the world, he can do that on our southern border.
And do you think we would have support from the government in Mexico?
But look, I think Mexico, right now they're being real careful about giving us that, ability, and we want to work with Mexico on that. I actually think Mexico would step up and help us because life in Mexico would be so much better. We know that these cartels have killed thousands of judges and journalists, reporters and politicians and law enforcement, military. Mexico is a corrupt nation in large part because the cartels control much of the government, the military, and law enforcement. Why is that? I'm not saying they voluntarily stepped up to be corrupt, but when you walk up to someone that's making, $8,000 a year as a law enforcement officer, and you offer him $500,000 to look the other way while they smuggle something, and if they don't take the money, say, look, you can take the money, or we'll kill your family and kill you. And they did, and they will. A lot of these law enforcement, military, and politicians are forced into a position of either you assist the cartels, you face execution, you and your family. So I think Mexico would welcome the United States taking on the cartels. That country would be much safer. Tourism would skyrocket, or tourism is hurt because of the cartel threats and kidnappings and so forth. I think Mexico would be a much safer country, a much happier country. We can really improve life in Mexico by taking out the criminal element.
What about the northern border? What are we seeing up there?
Well, I live on the northern border, so I pay, that's personal to me, but crossing on the southern border is down about 94%. It was at 96, about 94 now. On the northern border, we're down about 72 now. We need to do better. But the problem on the northern border, we got a big border, a long border, and minimal resources of it. We don't have the border patrol agent staff when we have my southern border across, because we put the staff where the fire is, and the biggest fire is the southern border. But we need to add staffing to the northern border, which we're going to do. We need to add more technology to the northern border. Even though crossing it down to 72%, it's not enough. So the northern border concerns me because we know that special interest alien countries, SIA countries, many of them tend to cross through the northern border because they can afford to fly into Canada, and Canada's immigration requirements are very low. So there's a government report after 9/11 saying if the chance of a national security threat coming across the northern border is about 10 times more likely than the southern border. So we got, I look at the numbers right now in upstate New York, where I actually own a summer home. It's an increase in Pakistani, Indians, Turks, Romanians. So these are people we need to pay attention to. So we're already addressing the northern border, but once we get funding from Congress, we really need to increase the staffing and the technology on the northern border to make that border as safe as the southern border.
Yeah. You, of course, speak with the president on a pretty regular basis. Is President Trump pleased with the progress so far, with the deportation numbers, the arrest numbers?
Yes, he's extremely happy. I mean, again, ICE has arrested more criminal aliens in 7 weeks than President Biden did in a year. So, and the amazing thing is the border. The border was down 96%. That was accomplished in 6 weeks. President Trump did in 6 weeks what Joe Biden couldn't or wouldn't do in 4 years, which is great because we kind of proved the big false narrative, right? That he couldn't secure the border without help from Congress. Well, we had no help from Congress, and in 6 weeks we secured the border, so it could be done. We also proved that after a 4-year lie, the border secured, that it wasn't. So President Trump's very happy with the progress. I'm happy too, but just not satisfied. We need more.
Not satisfied. You said, and as you've expressed today as well, the worst of the worst first, that's top priority. After you arrest, deport, the worst of the worst, those criminal threats, who's next?
Well, hey, if you're in a country illegally, you're not off the table. I mean, we're going to open the aperture up. We're looking for fugitive aliens, those who had due process at great taxpayer expense, enter the country illegally. We gave them due process. They saw a federal judge. Federal judge said you must leave. They didn't leave, became a fugitive. We're looking for those folks. And as we move on, the aperture continues to open. If you're in the United States illegally, you're not off the table. We're going to look for you. And what they should do is take our advice. And if you're in the country illegally and haven't been ordered removed by a judge, leave on your own. That way you don't have a bar placed against you from ever coming back. Because if you have a U.S. citizen child, they can petition for you. If you want to come back on a work visa, a student visa, or come in through a legal pathway, there's no bar. But if we have to formally deport you, if we have to go through the whole process of having a judge order you removed, and we have to go find you and remove you, you will never come back to this country. So I hope they do the right thing and leave on their own. If they don't, we'll find them sooner or later. And look, every day you spend in this country after a judge orders removed, you can be fined up to $998 a day. Add that up, you can be in debt to this country by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Leave now. If you evade your arrest, take actions to evade your arrest, we will seek you out. When we find you, we will prosecute you for evading arrest. And after you get out of jail, prison, then we'll deport you. So the best thing to do is just follow the direction of the courts if you've been ordered to move and leave. And if you're here illegally and you haven't been ordered removed yet, leave on your own. Give yourself a future opportunity to come back to the greatest country on earth the right way.
Mr. Homan, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
You got
It's been
it.
excellent. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Subscribe to get the news the legacy media won't tell you and only the Daily Signal can bring to you.